The caveat is that they're all connected. So shadows kind
Yeah.
of feed from one another in the end, and the gifts feed from one another. It's almost like you tap into the shadow, you turn them all on across the board, and it
Yeah.
depends. No matter what key you have your shadow in.
People like you that are enabling great change for others, and just your presence and just your being. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a celebrity to do it either. You could just be walking down the street or sitting in a room.
And you're making the difference.
How can I contribute something? And that's a big fear too. It's like, oh, I'm going to change my city or my town or my country. Like, yeah, it's possible. It starts with one person. The ninth gene key: inertia, determination, invincibility. The dilemma of this gene key is perspective. If we're looking up at the whole mountain, we'll feel overwhelmed. If we decide to just look down at our feet, we'll be captivated. The taming power of the small teaches us to focus on small changes, rather than attempting great things.
Well.
Number 9.
You're 9 SQ, I am 9 Radiance. I am sure we'll have a lot to say about this.
Can I start with a question?
Mm-hmm.
For you with 9 Radiance, how did you feel inertia in your life, and then when did you feel maybe just play it out, like where did the shadow show up for you?
So when I read how he explains small individual stones, and then how sometimes you run in circles of these individual things that happen in your life if you play small rather than take a risk or leap of faith, I went backwards in my life to really retrospectively look into the decisions that I made in my life that were first rebellious, second outrageously scary and risky. I left my country, I left my mom, my entire family, and I entered the homosexual relationships or relationships with human beings that I connected rather than, it was always there. And he always played a little mini voice in my head where it didn't allow me to do it the small way. And I always felt like I was protected by higher forces. And example would be really funny example, actually. I don't watch news at all, ever. I don't even turn on my TV, and I don't even know why I have it. But my mom does, right? So I went to China for work, and she calls me saying, there's an earthquake in China. I was like, wait a minute, I just left. And she's like, oh, yes. When I was in Big Island 2 years ago or 3 years ago, first time ever on a Big Island in Hawaii, the day, and we went from Hilo, I think, on the other side. So we had to take that road over the volcano, and volcano erupted. My mom calls in and she's like, you're freaking Hawaii. It's volcanoes erupting out there. Evacuate. And I was like, wait, what? I just left Hawaii. And it's almost like all these decisions in life I almost feel like I was guided to not get stuck in this shadow of inertia or playing small. And I was brave enough. I don't know how. Nobody taught me how to be brave. I just did it. And I just followed the impulse. And impulse, I understood, was my intuitive sense of, no, this is right for me, no matter what everybody's telling me. So the fact that I fell in love and I just left my country, it's so dumb. but I did it, and it changed my life completely, forever.
Mm.
And here I am seeing this person, first time ever, walking down the aisle, down. I don't know. Did I ever tell you a story?
No, go ahead.
I used to work on cruise ships, and I was horrible in it. Right, my job was to be a captain's waitress, and I would regularly take everyone's order rather than the captain's order of this big ass 10,000 people huge cruise ship. And I failed many times in it. I was like, damn it, again, fuck. And I couldn't really be the best waitress. It just didn't suit me. But I did a contract 1 year, which was 9 months. And I was like, well, I'll just try. So I'm literally sitting here and like acting like a hostess. And they kicked me out of the captain's mess because I was horrible. And then they put me to be pretty hostess. And because I spoke English and I had the long hair, I was great at it, right? I can talk left, right, this deck, that Lido, this deck. So I just like shared. That was my job, right? So there was this woman walking down the aisle, and literally I just turned around and I saw, and boom, it just happened. And we connected for one dinner, and dinner lasted 2 hours. And after that, I just couldn't, I took my way, she took her way. And then a month later, I'm like, I'm just gonna had an impulse just to call and say, hey, I'm willing to come and see you. I'm flying back to Greece. So are you okay? And I could just stop by for a weekend. And, I only have like $300. Whatever. I don't need it. I'll just use it for the room. And she's like, yeah, sure. Come on over. And my life changed forever. I never left. 13 years later, I'm still here. So it's the impulse. And that impulse is really what made me not play small ever in life. So inertia, how I understand, is the playing it small because you are domesticating the dreams, right? So we are not following that impulse, rather than we're coming back to become much smaller because of the one or the other way of fear. Yeah. But you tell me, what about you?
Well, I unfortunately play both sides of it a little more like clearly. Like for you, it was easier, which I'm grateful because it's your radiant. So you've probably been healthy most of your life, right? As a very healthy individual. Whereas for me, with inertia, he wrote the human tendency to become submerged in unnecessary and irrelevant details. And that was like my shtick growing up. Like my parents would comment about me to their friends or whoever. They're like, Eric corrected the pastor in church the other day and told him the correct amount of miles to the sun from the earth. I was just doing this stuff constantly, just like nitpicking and really focused on details, and they really mattered to me. So yeah, I guess I was really stuck in inertia for a long time.
But is it the details? The details you're focused on, I see it as the gift rather than the weakness. And here's how I determine that. Is like, if I'm stuck in the details, where I struggle is really understanding. Where I struggle with getting stuck in details are emotions, admittedly. Mm-hmm. And on emotional level, if something doesn't sit well, meaning if I would never do this for you, for example, ever. How can you? And then I get immediately into the shadow saying, okay, this, because I feel now attached to it and now have to justify it. So all these details and these weeds that get me nowhere is where I see getting stuck in inertia. But it's related to this aspect of my life. But if you're pointing out and correcting the correct mileage, I think that's awesome. Between the sun and the earth, right? So if you can maybe give me a different example of when you feel inertia is really playing a role in you, in your life, or was?
Yeah. So you're almost saying you have an initial event, and then you defend your position with details, or like that's the getting stuck. It's like you rehash and you. Am I getting that right?
Yes, I justify. So, yeah, it's the shadow that I now need to justify for whatever reason because it doesn't sit well.
Hmm.
And if it doesn't sit well, it often doesn't sit well because someone else has a different path. It's not my path.
Yeah.
And the moment I get attached to someone else's path, the details are like, oh my God, I'm stuck in inertia immediately. You should do this, you should do this, you should do this. This, all these different little mini nitpicky details.
Hmm. Oh, having trouble with this one. Trying to think of it in a different way. I think part of the trouble too is this is, my SQ, which is related to years 1 through 7, and there's not clear memories in that time period. I mean, there's some memories, but oh, that's interesting. Okay, let me.
Does anything come up? I think because we have the same key in a very different aspects, they're totally different.
Yeah. Like, okay, border indifferent, the details tame you, sapping your life force, robbing you of versatility. Just like blank.
Okay. Okay. Let me tell you a different example.
Sure.
So you are work here for 4 months already, and doing this doesn't feel. It almost like the way to get out of the inertia is through those daily activities and structures that I was saying earlier, that it's hard for me to get structured unless something comes from the heart. And when it comes from the heart, it really feels like it's weightless. It doesn't have time stops. 2 hours later, you and I are still talking, full force energy, like I just woke up, right? And the way so I attach it to that impulse of, oh, this feels so on point, right time, right person, right thing, doing the right everything. Mm-hmm. So what we are doing here to this day doesn't feel at all like a weight or something that I am putting so much effort in it. Rather, it's effortless. And this is where the inertia shadow gets really pushed to the gift, where you push through initial phase of doing something, and then the momentum kicks in. And as the momentum grows for everything that you're doing, it enters the gift space of, oh, now we're doing it, we don't even feel like it. And things just come up. When I go back, Eric, and I listen to what we're talking about, it's like we talk like deep stuff. Like, did I really say this?
Yeah.
Did you really mean this? It's like, we drop bombs, like a lot of like really good stuff. And it doesn't happen if we think about it. It happens because we are already having this momentum of pushing through, and that will is. It's just like the will that we both have to do this is really the impulse or essence from the heart. So inertia is hard to do in this case and be stuck in inertia because I think we're operating under the gift already when it comes to this podcast or talks. It says if what do you got?
The gift computes for me, and it makes sense to me. And I could place like many decisions of like pursuing like careers is a common one for me, of like getting stuck in inertia, justifying it, and I'm just careful that I'm not just throwing an example in because it seems like it fits. And trying to make sure that it's fitting truly to what the shadow is. If that makes
Are you alluding we're throwing off we're throwing our tangents? That's sure we digress a lot.
sense.
How about being bored?
Yeah. So much of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's
So
interesting.
apparently, mm-hmm.
It's like bored with school, not so much bored with sports, but that comes around at some point where I'm like, why am I doing this? And then it becomes boring. Um, not really bored with friends, not bored by my own interests, but there's it was hard for me to fulfill my own interests. But it's interesting just to know, like I would skip school because I hated it in high school, and then I would just like go home and lay in the grass or something, just random, and people are gonna think I'm like like a horrible student. I was actually a good student. Um, but I would like look at a blade of grass and like watch ants on it and just be fascinated. And I was completely like, I was in that state. Like 3 hours had passed, and I'm like, this is a great day. This is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Just like things like that, or like if I'm at school, I'm like, I would find myself bored by the lecture, bored by my environment, um, bored by trying to pass notes to friends, whatever it is. But if I like focused on the details, and this is interesting talking about details of like my desk, and it was like composite wood with like it looked like a million different parts that came together to make like the top of the desk, and just looking at it and comprehending like where all this came from and how it was processed, and then just like experiencing the detail and letting it wash over me. And I would like get emotional in the middle of the classroom looking at my desk, and then those are those moments when I'm like, I'm fucking crazy.
Or you're just operating and on a gift level
Yeah.
because it feels like effortless. So whenever I find myself bored, and this to this day is actually happening. So it's almost like when I attend the meetings that just last week I was in a meeting in a conference full of people, and suddenly out of blue I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? And I'm like, why do I have to attend this dinner where I do not want to be? And I'm like out far away from bored out of my mind. That's when I know we're operating on the shadow level. But you're connecting your boredom with 1 to 7, right? Because you have SQ in this key, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Does it happen to that? Does it still happen? I guess.
The feeling of boredom. Yes. You're looking for a more recent example?
Yeah, when you know you're not following your heart
Yeah.
behind
Um,
every act that you're making.
it gets complex because it's usually around interpersonal interactions. And I don't know if it's just this shadow because there's so many that come up, like when I'm dealing with another person. So for
Hmm.
instance, the feeling of boredom or like feeling stuck, feeling trapped and not feeling heard. I have a colleague that Carly and I work with who asks the right questions, communicates the right message, but I don't feel any sort of comprehension of what I'm actually saying. And I don't feel heard, and then I don't feel like I'm actually contributing anything. And when I don't feel like I'm contributing anything, I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. Like, there's no point. And in fact, it's worse than there's no point. It's like this is like literally sapping my life force. Like Carly will be sitting here and kind of it's like a call, right? Carly will be like kind of hanging out, and I'll be just pacing over here and just like fuming, and I'll be like making like little looks to her, like, "What the fuck is this?" And she's like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, this person is just tone deaf. I just don't. feel any sort of care like being returned, and it just feels artificial, fake, ugly. I want nothing to do with it. I don't. So that's a clear example for me. I just don't know if like it sounds like many shadows playing out there.
In that example.
Yeah.
All right, let me read this one. If your heart is not behind your every act, not only do you choose an inappropriate course in life, but you also continually wear down your health. So your pacing, you're gonna get you a heart attack, because literally, meaning I feel this, right? So I feel in relations to other people, it does always happen when we have a mirror in front of us, right? That triggers our shadows, or triggers and mirrors something that we dislike heavily. And it's so easy to get trapped into this, right? But so to give you the example, there was this teaching that I did recently, a couple weeks ago, and there was this woman who came aggressive towards me, and it was actually my first time realizing, and the way, and this is the high level woman, right? So when we talk about money and we talk about anything related to the return of investment stuff and cash, right? So it's very dark energy anyway, and it's very hard to be translated into any type of soul or heart way of explaining. It's just business, and it's cold-hearted. But the way that she approached was very aggressive, right? And she wanted to put her point across, and her voice and her entire stand was like she almost tensed her entire muscles, trying to prove me wrong and say, this is what I'm going to do anyway. But that moment when she was so aggressive towards me, I turned around and I was like, but I understand. My voice, my entire posture came out of blue to be CD. And CD level of, it's okay. Don't get stressed, right? So when I followed the way I wanted to approach her, and I didn't want to approach her as a businesswoman who cares about money, I actually wanted to approach her, Jill, you don't have to stress. It's okay. This is just a business. We're just doing our best on the both sides, right? So when I approached her from the heart, the message came so nicely. It was just like I almost touched her face with, oh my God, don't worry, honey, right? It's all gonna be fine, rather than telling her. And this telling is really what makes me sick in my body if I don't speak from my heart. And if I feel this is what I have to tell you, I will never be rude about it. Actually, my heart speaks in very kind note. And the voice of it is like, it's so soft, you almost want to hug me, if not even kiss me. It's like,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. So that's why if you don't act from the heart, this really, really resonates with me. It's like, I cannot tell you how much I just want to talk from my heart, because then you're going to feel my love from the heart directly, rather than artificial way of thinking. And which will make me and you both sick. So I can distinct between the two very easily, and especially in a workplace where no one has a heart.
Yeah.
Well, everybody has a heart. It's just they're shove it down and it's repressed.
Yeah. It's like, so you've determined to show up with your heart. So like the determination you get determined to, and then when you first decided to do that at your current company, it was probably more difficult, like to talk about momentum. And now it's just like it's just natural, and it's actually easier than what you were doing before.
Yeah. And it's like punch through it with the huge act of will. The only way to get out of it is to punch fucking through it.
Yeah.
Be scandalous. My way is like I bring my JBL, the sound speaker.
Yeah.
And before we start talking and arguing, one moment, I bust the music. I have them all come in a circle, hold your hands, and I play David Guetta. And everybody says, yeah. And now we can talk, right? So punch through it. And that's where that will comes in. And how do you teach will to people, really? It's my lifelong question. I don't have answer to it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe off camera, I'll have to ask you about the situation that has come up for me. Maybe
Okay.
some creative ways to work through it.
Okay, don't forget it. Note it.
All right.
Okay, enough about shadows. We get stuck in shadows so
Yeah.
much.
Every
Okay.
intentional act is a magical
Mm,
act. And just something that came up right now is my 10-month-old. He's learning
uh-huh.
to wave, and he goes like this. And it's not like a wave or even like this. It's like this folding that I call it magic. I'm like, oh, Koa's doing magic. Look at Koa's doing magic. And so now his brothers go, look at Koa, he's doing magic. And so anytime he sees someone or he looks at the ocean today, I'm like, Koa's doing magic. And the thing is with this, as a 10-month-old, it is a super intentional act to like bring his hand up and try to communicate or touch or feel. And he's like in that energy field, and he was just like, this is how it's feeling right now.
Do you think he even knows what he's doing?
I think he's part of, he's like fluid.
I feel it's almost like the energy talks through him and he doesn't even know that's his hand.
Yeah. So maybe it's the intention. Maybe it's the intention of the whole manifesting through him, but it's still magical.
That's so beautiful. Do you take the time to record what they're doing?
I thought about this yesterday actually, and I took a video. We were at a party, and I'm like, gosh, I really enjoy having the memories of these events. And what I did when I came to Hawaii was like, no technology, no more social media, no more of this, no more of that. And it was beautiful to like be present, to be in it. But I'm noticing now, like, even just the act of capturing a moment that's like so beautiful and heartwarming and magical, it makes me appreciate it more. As long as I don't get trapped in like, it's the right angle. Am I gonna get likes? Like and I don't tend to do that. So, but just to bring that
Chop your face in half.
Yeah. Put my finger over the
Okay. Okay, so the gift is determination. Doesn't come easy for me. But when I connect this with the natal charts and all the planets and what we're aiming to learn and do is I have a hope. The reason why, because maybe as a Pisces, again, I'm just fluid, right? I'm going through life. I'm trusting the universe has my back. Money, no problem. It will come. They're saying as a Pisces are the only sign that can actually literally pluck the money from the tree. And it's like, it just shows up for them. And I trust it. And I'm not delusional about it, but it's almost like something will happen. I just have to trust the entire process and not try to control it. So, but the determination to start and end something is what I'm learning. And this, what we are doing, is really what teaches me the basic foundational way to get determined to finish something or get on the train that will lead us who knows where. We don't know the end of this, but I don't want to bail. And I connected down to, if determination is easy when you're operating from your heart rather than when you're forced to do something you really don't enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Yeah, the thought I have on that is just like recognizing truth. And it almost seems obvious. So it's almost like my brain is looking for like, is there a catch to that? Like, can I can I trap something in that? But it's really just that is the act of will that comes from the heart.
And repetition.
And repetition, yeah, doing it again. And something, for some reason, like this thought of like a very depressed state where you don't even want to get out of bed, and how putting on clothes for the day or getting showered or whatever can take like a huge amount of willpower determination. And like, I think it's just like it's the clear metaphor. Like if you're like truly like in this horrible state of depression and you're coming out, like that first time you shower, get clothes on and step outside, huge. Like it took a lot of effort. You're probably tired and fearful and nervous. And then on day 7, day 15, it's become a lot easier if you continue to do it.
Hmm. So what is determination for you? What does that mean to you?
To me, it's like stepping into something that feels like an alignment with a purpose. Because there's a culture now of like the stoicist, like only allow your emotions so much space and move on and don't respond to anybody with reactivity and just be like it's like the hyper masculine, reject modernity. This there is a realm, as there are realms for every single thing, thought bubbles and forms that exist around this idea, and it sounds like determination, like hustle, grind, go to the gym and shape your body and go to work and work 3 jobs if you have to and you'll figure it out. And it's like, to me, that's not determination. It's grosser, uglier, and it's not in alignment with your heart. And also like you're not paying attention to what's actually going on, and that leads to burnout. It leads to like health issues. Like obviously someone's probably on their way to the ER if they do that long enough. And there's this like there's this continual push of like, okay, caffeinate if you need to, take sleeping pills at night if you're not getting good rest. Like it's like we're gonna use science and break everything down so that you can be hyper productive. It's like hyper productivity in a way. Like determination, to me, it should come from a place of truth. Otherwise it will fall on its face. And it's like, what? Well, then people lose the ability to be determined at that point, like to have willpower, because they've lost faith in it. Like, well, it didn't work, so I'm just gonna be and do the 9 to 5 and fill up my 401k and put gas in my car and live like everyone else. Like, it's the crushing of the spirit if you aren't attuned to the heart.
It comes down to the heart.
Mm-hmm. So you said this was challenging for you
The
initially?
gift?
Yeah.
It's only challenging when I get it's in some aspects of the life, right? So but I do feel that everybody has the time where you realize that you're living in the shadow frequency and that there is the gift frequency. So you know how sometimes you and I go through these and we're like, we can't connect to this one. It's like, I almost either can't connect to the shadow or can't connect to the light. Like right now, we have the most to say about the shadows if you really look at it, and the least to say about CDs. Yes, we are aiming to get there. We'll get there eventually, no matter what. But the amount of comprehension is really dependent on the capacity of understanding of it, right? So, and the time where we are meant to learn about shadow and gift and feel them and embody both aspects or all three and see these two. So I am learning the two. And since last year, the shamanation comes very clearly and strongly. It's like a brick to me. It's like, it almost feels that it's given to me. Now I just have to figure out what to do with it rather than, oh, I want to be determined into something. So things pop up in my life and I'm like, no, I am sticking with this no matter what. So I am determined to continue and keep the momentum easily now. If you asked me 5 years ago, I would be like, no momentum. I cannot even stick with it, right? But if I'm looking at the events that had just occurred last year and this year, in just recent past, it's like, this comes easily now. Why? The only answer is maybe because it's my time to learn how to embody the gift of determination. So I'm determined. I don't skip. I go to the gym every day. And I'm not going to pump my muscles. I'm going because there is part of me that enjoys the determination of it.
Yeah.
Right. And, like I did the devotion practice and I really wanted just to do it for 30 days to push myself through it. But I ended up doing it for 2 months and I went places, different time zones throughout the 2 months. And I was like, oh my God, this feels different.
Yeah.
It's not about devotional practices. It's about determination for something and the feeling of it. Now I'm learning, my nervous system is learning how to get determined about something. So what you and I are doing is really teaching me what that means and not stopping the momentum. And what is beautiful about this is like, if you push through it in the beginning, you and I both have this gift. If we push through it in the beginning, which is the hardest part, as it continues, it becomes lighter and lighter, and it's just going to be really easy.
Mm-hmm.
And for both of us, I am happy. It makes me happy to know that we do this out of heart. We don't do this because we just want to add another podcast on Spotify. But like, who cares? Who gives a shit? No one gives a shit. But we just happen to press recording and whatever. We don't have anything to do with it. It's our heart speaking most of the time, entire time. We don't read. We literally touch a couple spots and the page. The rest is all us talking.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I think about career choices in my life, like I almost became a pilot. I almost became a financial advisor. I almost became a banker. And those things failed because at some point my heart was like, I'm gonna break if you continue. This isn't what we're meant to do. You became attached to like the income potential or what you thought was gonna be a good lifestyle, some idea. And something that Richard wrote down is like, people become strangers unto themselves when they fall into the trap of imitation and finding external validation. So it's interesting, like that if you type in determination or willpower on YouTube, what comes up is a whole bunch of opportunities for imitation and external validation, and it's dressed like internal motivation. But there's no opportunity in any of those videos or any of those talks to connect with what's here and find out what's going on first, and then make a decision and determine willpower based on what your heart is telling you.
Bam. I mean, the world we live in and the time we live in it's offering us so many opportunities to tap into our shadows. You got to be really like, I tap into it all the time, right? But you got to be really aware of when are you operating on meal. Where are you, buddy? when are you operating from one versus another?
Yeah.
And infinite is one of them too. And that, yeah, I mean, but it has its own time.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It's like when I'm learning, I am learning how to feel this and not accept it, more feel, which makes me understand others a lot more, no matter what they're going through.
Yeah.
We can't teach this heart way of living and following our hearts and enjoying and embodying it and fully living and dancing with it. It's unteachable. It's unteachable. And it's like, but the hope is people will get there. The knowing is that people will get there. Whoever needs to get there. I used to say this, it's like you and I are perfect until I don't want you to go behind me or ahead of me. Sit right next to me and let's go together. As long as we're going to the same direction, we're actually waking up. Our paths are different, and our paths will go this way, and eventually, potentially, most likely, separate. Right? So this way, and then go like this.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pointing to something beautiful. I'm trying to think. I don't know if this was in the reading. It would take me forever to find it, but it was something like, it might have been 8, because we talked about, followers and seeking that, but it's like, an act from the heart is true when you're not seeking a follower or someone to imitate, but you're seeking a friend.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where that came from, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we jump into city, or maybe after, I'll let you decide. I'm curious what your line says. I have the book for your 4th line for radiance.
Friendship.
Friend. Oh, speaking of friend. Okay.
Want to read it or let's go?
Oh, it's not too long. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just a moment. I'm in the. Gotta go to radiance. Friendship. The 4th line radiance represents the path of the humanitarian. This is a radiance rooted in aloneness, but that is directed outwards towards helping others, and specifically people. With a 4th line radiance, you will have a magnetic ability to draw people towards yourself. Ironically, at the shadow frequency, this works against you because you will draw those people towards you who are not healthy to you. However, at the higher frequencies, you can be the focal point for all manner of talented people. If you have a 4th line radiance, this makes you potentially a very influential person in the world. And the purer your aspirations, the further your reach will travel. On a personal level, your body thrives when you are in the company of those you love and trust. The worst thing you can therefore do is cut yourself off from your community. Because of its approachability, the 4th line often has the most refined people skills and thrives working in teams. At its highest level, the radiance of the 4th line can reach out and open up the hearts of other people.
I mean, totally on point.
Totally on point. And you even said, like, we can't teach people how to open their heart. And that is the thing that someone would say with a 4th line that helps people open their hearts. It's like this, like, ultimate grace, right? You're just like, you're free, you're easy, you're allowing, yeah.
It's wild how accurate it is. Do you want to read yours since we're speaking?
I'm not sure. Mine is much longer.
Yours is 6, right?
Yeah.
Patience.
It's 5 paragraphs.
Let's go.
You
I have
sure?
time. Mm-hmm.
We complete our journey through the SQ with the sixth line and its primary theme of patience. The sixth line is the most mysterious and hidden of the lines. Like an iceberg, it carries the majority of its weight beneath the surface. There is a specific destiny written into every child that comes into the world. Your hologenetic profile gives a clue as to the nature of this higher purpose. As we journey through each of the 6 lines, we are seeing the universal themes that are then translated and filtered through the 64 gene key, the codes that carry our mythic identities. We have seen repeatedly that the 6th line carries a vision into the world. In the case of the SQ, this is a vision that is always ahead of its time. People with a 6th line SQ are like the custodians of our common future. They have the potential to unify the rest of us. They carry a code that places all the other lines and their themes into a universal holographic context. The 6th line SQ is the most commonly misunderstood child. Unless they have an unusually sensitive and loving parent or parents, then these children may never get their deep needs met. Their deepest need is for time and space to develop without interference. These children may develop at a different pace from their peers. They may also display unusual characteristics. They need to be considered in a different way from other children. This is not because they are any more special than anyone else, but because the rhythm of their development is unusual and different. Later in their lives, people with a 6th line SQ may go off at all kinds of tangents in life. What such children need is the quality of patience from their parents and peers. Patience is a field of trust that instantly puts a young child at ease. In our modern world, we often lack this timeless quality because we have created a synthetic system that is insensitive to the incarnating child. To be given time and space to grow up with unworried parents is a precious gift. The 6th line SQ contains a living transmission of love that will one day emerge in the world if it is given enough time, space, and patience. If the 6th line is rushed, pushed, or pressured, then they may never move through the transformations that they need in life. It is easy for such people to give up on themselves and compromise their dreams in life. The greater dream always lives hidden in the hearts of these people. It is the dream of a better world. The paradox of the 6th line's dream is that they do not know how to enact it. They feel it always unless they succumb to the collective shadow frequency. But how to bring it into form? The answer to the above question is patience. The dream will emerge in its own time, in its own way. The secret is not to interfere with your own process. You don't need to speed it up or slow it down. Nature knows best. As a 6th line SQ, you do not have to spend your life trying to understand everything. You may do that because you don't feel the depth inside yourself. So you must take heart and know that the answers are inside you. In time, something extraordinary will emerge from you, as sure as the butterfly will emerge from the cocoon.
Damn.
Yeah.
What? Okay. So how does that feel?
It feels good. Like it's when we approach our shadows, like in a more general sense, like the shadows of our upbringing or our psyche, and we face our trauma, we learn something about like reparenting, like parenting ourselves and being comforting people, and the idea of like the ultra patient parent to myself, like it just feels like so amazing. And of course, I think of like stories about my kids. For example, we're heading down to the beach and there's like rocks, so they have to traverse down rocks and they're climbing and they're on their hands and feet. And Luca, our oldest, he likes to lead. And if he doesn't get a chance to lead or we're impatient with him, we want to rush past him, he throws a huge fit. And this happened the other day, and Carly was a little impatient because she had Koa in her arms and she had a bag and she just wanted to put her stuff down and like get there. And I just looked at her and I'm like, just give him a little time, you know, we're in Hawaii. It's like, you know, just channel some reggae in and call it good.
No rush.
And, yeah, and it's like And we did. We gave him time and space, and it took us probably twice as long to get down, but he felt safe with us. He felt like we had his back and we understood him. And then our time at the beach was like really precious. It was like easygoing and beautiful. Whereas if we like rushed him and we were like forcing him, or I picked him up and like hauled him down to the big scene, then he probably would have continued the emotions, like not feeling heard, not feeling seen, and not feeling safe ultimately. So
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful gifts of being a parent is like taking the stories of me parenting and allowing myself to like feel that same energy for my own childhood.
That's so beautiful. It's one thing I'll probably never find out how to, but use it.
Well, if you do wind up in a community, you'll have plenty of opportunities.
I don't want to raise kids. I love them. I love them. I trust them. I hope there are superheroes. I put all this effort. I think I just need to go and break the rules. That's what I feel I need to do. Just break all the rules possible. Do it all wrong so someone else can do it right.
Oh yeah.
But it's beautiful. I can see it. It's like I always have this sense with you, and that somewhere there, okay. For me, when I'm in your presence, and this is not to tap your ego on the shoulder and tell you, and really, I'm gonna, because I can easily tell you what you want to hear rather than what my sense is for you. I think you're gonna do something different. And I always had this sense with you because your energy, it's like it hits this field every time. And this field, I wrote this about this the other day. When I say field, you're almost tapping. You know when you turn on the frequency on the radio, and I almost had this sense of like frequency moving like a sound or a wave in it, and you're tapping higher, or you're tapping lower. So you enter this field, and in this field you sit, and you've always sat from the sense that I got from your energy. It's like you're gonna do something different. Here is our truth. Oh my god! Do you remember you made a comment? I actually created a short with it. I was like, I'm gonna send it to you. Every time you said, every time I speak profound truth, I will get the thumbs up. Hilarious. But anyway, I always had this sense of you doing something very different in such a kind way. Is that difference that can be so abrupt for other people will be taken so softly. That's my sense of you. Like, and you're so calm about it, and almost you're sitting waiting. You're say like a not a sage, but almost like the time will come. The energy with you says this message. It's not you speaking or acting or behaving. It's more like this space that you embody into or you enter speaks this. It feels like it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, when I tap into my higher self, that message is it resounds, like it's clear and it's the same message every time. But yeah, I don't sit here, I don't live with that message like embodied every day. So usually I have to kind of like remember, like, okay, what's my higher self telling me? Like, oh, you're good. Like you don't have to.
While you're waiting to get to that space, you still owe me a flight. You remember? Because you're like, yeah, but we'll go over Michigan easy. I'll just give you a lesson. I was like, huh? You actually fly airplanes? And you're like, yeah, easy.
Okay, I'll give you a flight.
You fly in Hawaii?
No, I haven't. Been part of the refinding my way and recalibrating to my heart. And I think flying is something that's really cool, and I would love to share it, but I'm not going to make a career out of it. At least that's not I don't see it right
I mean, the fact that you're flying, it's just mind blowing to me. Okay, so the CD is Invincibility. Let's see, we have, okay. Invincibility, not
now.
invisibility.
Yeah.
Inner space, the final frontier. I highlighted a couple things here, and my comment was, as I didn't even know what else to say, because it's so like it's unexplainable. Outer space becomes inner space. Time becomes infinite yet absolutely present, and all boundaries are absorbed by the consciousness itself. There's nothing I have to say about this.
Mhm.
Speechless. But I had to read it. I highlighted it 3 times. So I have a question, and we can maybe end with this. So I think you and I will have a lot to say about this. There's a passage here that talks about the love as a universal love. And you and I have this key. And eventually, we will end up becoming invincible. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe in it, but we are working towards it and evolving towards it. If you are blessed to be karmically tied to such a being, it is highly likely that full realization will occur within your lifetime. People that we meet, share ourselves with, without us even wanting to do this for them, will alter them for a lifetime.
Mhm.
Thoughts. This sounds so scary to me.
Right. Yeah, I feel similarly. The moments when it doesn't scare me, or when I think about, Carly and I have been through a lot. My spouse and I, for those that don't. And we have moments of doubt, her or I, but almost the majority of the time, I can tap into the higher self, and I just have like a presence of knowing, like there's almost nothing we could do that would, like, what's the worst that can happen? And I'll play that out, but it's like we don't even have to get close to that. It's like this feeling of truly being supported. And I think having the sphere of number 9 is tapping into the universal mana, which is a Hawaiian word meaning like power or strength, or like, I believe they can use it with breath. So it's like the breath of the universe, like the strength that comes, like this determination, this will, or this invincibility of this existence. And I think it sounds scary initially to say that we will help people become realized, like we're gurus or whatever, but it's almost like much more subtle than that, and probably not going to be coming back to us in a state of recognition, but almost like we brush someone on the plane and have a quick interaction, and that gives me like a little less like maybe the fear for you, like pressure, yeah, like what you came here to do. But ask your higher self, and it's like you can't even fuck it up. Even, even in that state of how you're reacting to it, you're still setting it up.
When I read it, and I put the 3 exclamation points next to it, because I read this like last year. And when I reread it, I was like, wait a minute. So as we meet souls and cross paths with many different souls in this lifetime, we alter each other's existence one or the other way. All of them have power. That's what I thought. Initially, I'm not the only powerful one. Actually, all of us have power. And all of us are coming here to do our own role, because the roles are different. But to have recollect many times on, and the people that I met in life, and often is, it's almost, I don't know what I'm doing, but yet it is profoundly changeable for the other and for me as well at the same time. So it's not only that I'm changing someone else's belief or life, and it can be just simply one small interaction. It doesn't need to be a lifelong partnership, or it doesn't need to be an existing relationship. Sometimes we just meet people that here's the story. First day I step on the cruise ship, I don't speak language, I don't know anybody, I'm across on the other side of the planet alone, first time. And there's this man, I even forgot his name, that came to me and just suddenly out of blue comes and says, I see you. And I'm like, what do you mean? I see you, and I see you're gonna do big things. Takes his chain off, like silver chain, and gives it to me and says, keep this. I kept this for us until I came here in LA, actually, 12 years later. I never took off the chain. You met me with the chain, actually.
Yeah.
Forgot his name, never saw him after that, just crossed my path, and I believed in it because he gave me this like just little mini seed. And I keep remembering. And then the chain was on my neck for all these 13 years. I never replaced it. And when it was time for it to break, it broke, and I lost it. And I lost it when I met another community here in LA, and I did the camping. It was just wild, right? So, but I'm like, we cross paths with these people and we don't know, we alter. If we follow the heart, we will alter each other anyway. And we never know. With the 9th CD, this doesn't make me feel any special than anybody else. See, it makes it, when I go look back, it's like as I changed their life in one or the other way profoundly, so they did mine too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, these cities and these gifts and these shadows, they exist in all of us. They show up in our profiles, right, to be more clear examples and kind of like our homework here. But we all have to, we should all read each 64. And just the other day we had a friend over, and they were Carly and this friend were talking, and I'm sitting here. Oh, I'm hearing desire. Like, I bet you that's the gene key. Like, it must be, right? And I found number 30 and started reading number 30, and it made me weep. It's not in my profile, but it was like, it hit me in the heart. Like, just hit me so good. But just having this book available, man, it's been such a joy, and like, I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the podcast because, I had the book, but I'm like, oh, I'll just open it when I want to. And much like with the 9th Jinky, like having determination to go through it, really, like, oh man, this has been really profound.
And we're on a 9th, 10th, 9th.
9.
4 months later.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do. I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to not finish it, but go through all of them and contemplate. The way we contemplate is when you contemplate alone on your own, you never talk out loud to yourself, right? You don't have the dialogue or conversation or exchange. This is very helpful because we get to tap into our own lives and current events, what's happening. It's beautiful. We should invite someone else also on our podcast, which, by the way,
Oh yeah, my friend had 9 as her pearl. Forgot about that one. But yeah, we Carly would be a good one. I'll find out her first one, and
yeah, I
my
mean,
my kids could sit for an hour. I would invite them.
yeah, we'll try to make them short, but I think it's good to talk it through and think it through and contemplate it through together. Cool. Closing thoughts?
Thank you. I love you. Aloha.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too, man. You're awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Love.
Bless.
Oh, bless.
Um,
Hey.
how did you? So how did you? You want to pause the record?